Radio. This is Jason Spangler, the Santee Swapper, your host. Man, it has been a minute, guys. I realize that I can't even count how long it's been since the last podcast was published. Of course, I haven't gone away. I haven't been quiet. Some of you will have seen on YouTube, I've published tons of unboxing videos. Honestly, I've just kind of twisted my content more towards YouTube, and the unboxings seem to be pretty popular. So I've let the podcast kind of fall by the wayside. And really, that's not going to change anytime super soon. I've got summer camp coming up, and so this summer is going to be a total wash. But at the same time, I would like to get back in the podcast hosting chair and fire things back up. Today, you're going to hear a short podcast. This is an interview with Chris Jensen, of course, of Streamwood. Many of you know Chris in his hobby. He's someone who's been around since about 1990, so he's got a little bit of staying power. And as you'll hear in this interview, we're going to be talking about the Pre-NOAC Trade-O-Ree that Chris is hosting in Knoxville, Tennessee, leading into the 2022 NOAC that's going to be going on this summer, the last week of July. I'm really excited. I'm signed up with a lodge contingent to go. I've made plans to go up early to attend the Trade-O-Ree. I've got some tables already reserved, and I'm going to have fun seeing all my old friends, trading some patches, and otherwise decompressing for what I assume will be a long, hot summer out there being a camp director. So hope you enjoyed this interview with Chris. Lots of good nuggets here, good information, especially if you're interested in going to the NOAC. One thing you'll probably hear me describe is that this Pre-NOAC Trade-O-Ree is sort of the biannual gathering of the hobby. It's the largest Trade-O-Ree that's typically held, and so it's a really great chance to make connections, see people, of course, browse all the cloth and maybe make some deals. But I just firmly believe that it's our chance, especially coming out of COVID, to get the entire hobby together. And it does seem like there is quite a lot of interest in this event. Chris said that the table rentals are ahead of schedule for any Trade-O-Ree that he's held in the last 20 years at this national level. And so that is definitely a great sign for the interest for this event. So without further ado, here's the interview with Chris. It lasts about 20 minutes. I hope that you will enjoy that. And at the end, I'll be back with a few other words. I'm here with Chris Jensen, who's been a frequent guest on this podcast over the years. And tonight we're going to be talking about the 2022 NOAC Trade-O-Ree that Chris is sponsoring. The dates on that are July 23rd through the 25th in 2022 there in Knoxville. Chris, thank you for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate the opportunity.
So I'm just going to ask you to start off and just tell us a little bit about the Trade-O-Ree. You're already really deep into selling through the tables, and you put a really great location and things like that. So for folks who are just for the first time hearing about the Trade-O-Ree, why don't you kind of give us the bare details?
The event is July 23rd to 25th, and it overlaps the NOAC by one day. So many of the NOAC participants are arriving on the morning of the 25th, get checked into their rooms, and the first really big deal for the NOAC is the evening show on the 25th. So there'll be some overlap, so participants that got a bus load of their lodge can stop by, check the place out. The Trade-O-Ree itself will not be closing until midnight. Some of the participants, go to the evening show, it still leaves time for the staff of the Trade-O-Ree and participants or the table renters at the Trade-O-Ree to kind of get packed up and out of there without having to rush. We have a lot of hours at this Trade-O-Ree. July 23rd, it starts at 10, gives time for the dealers between 8 and 10 to get set up. And the participants or visitors wanting to stop by, coming at 10 a.m. Through midnight on July 23rd. On the 24th and 5th, it's hours from 9 a.m. until midnight. So it's a long event, but gives chance for even some of the staff at the NOAC to come over after their duties are done there at the University of Tennessee.
So, Chris, let's assume that someone listening to this podcast is not even familiar with what a Trade-O-Ree is. Can you describe what your Trade-O-Ree will be like for a scout who might be attending NOAC or a staff member who's never been to a Trade-O-Ree and surely not one as big as this?
This Trade-O-Ree is huge. I mean, we got 56,000 square feet of space. on the 2 floors. We will be using just the first floor of this facility, which is about 40,000 square feet. You walk in, it's free admission. Just bring a pocket of patches or a buck or two, or just come to look. It's free. There'll be 257 tables, 8 foot long each, and you can just wander around and talk with other patch collectors or just memorabilia people that one-on-one. You don't have to be sending emails or sending pictures. You can just look and trade and make offers and have fun. There will be big aisles. We got free hand trucks, carts, wagons. If you want to bring your stuff in, your leftover stuff from your lodge trading post, you're welcome to do that too. There'll be everything from 100-year-old Boy Scout memorabilia stuff made just for the 2022 NOAC. So depending on what you collect or what you want to even take a look at, it's about everything. There'll be patches, pins, medals, books, games, you name it. It'll be a little bit of everything. Again, it's free. Just stop by. If you want to go check out a map of how to get there and all kinds of details, you can go to my website at streamwood.net, STREAMWOOD.net, and just click on a few things about the 2022 NOAC, and you'll see all the details.
So, Chris, it's probably safe to say that this is the largest Triggery that's been held, I guess, in about 4 years, right, since the 2018 Pre-NOAC that you also organized and ran.
Correct. There are the usual local Trade-O-Rees or regional Trade-O-Rees, and a big local one will be typically 80 or 90 or more tables. But the national events where you got people from nearly every state and a few foreign countries are hard to compare to. They're just 3-day events. It's go, go, go the whole time. Most local Trade-O-Rees or regional kind of Trade-O-Rees will start on a Friday afternoon and we'll finish up on a Saturday afternoon and everybody goes home. It's hard to really get to know everybody in the building or stop and look at every table if you got 257 tables and you didn't have more than one day. So it's an appropriate time for it.
And I know one of the things that you're really looking to get is on Monday, especially getting those NOAC participants to swing by the Triggery maybe before checking in, maybe some of them after. How far away is the convention center from the campus? How convenient would that be for folks?
It's about 4 or 5 miles, but the University of Tennessee campus is really spread out, and depending on where your dorm is or where you're working on staff or where the parking lots are located, it's still 3, 4, 5 miles. But this is the biggest possible place we could get anywhere in central Tennessee, and it's right off the interstate, so it's easy to find. We've got huge parking lots that we can park RVs, buses, trailers, everything, even overnight. You can park them there, leave them there overnight. There's no parking fees. So we have lots of space to get everybody in there. The Chillowy Park / Jacob building is at 3301 East Magnolia Avenue, Knoxville. Google's your friend. Look it up, follow a sign or two, and come on in. This is a large facility. It's like 50-some acres with a lake, with a children's museum, and a small zoo. And you just come on in there and enjoy.
So let's speak a little bit to the table renters, kind of the more serious collectors that might would want to get one of your tables. Kind of walk us through what the table situation is and the costs and how the signups are going.
So far, we've got more than 210 of the 257 tables reserved, but we even have a few wall tables left. All of the tables are 8 foot long by 30 inches wide, are $125 for all 3 days, or you can get a single day table for $70. You'll get to pick your table location. If you're there for 3 days, if you're there for 1 day, we'll find you a good spot but I can't guarantee a particular location. All of the tables have great lighting. There's actually entrances and exits on all four sides of this building. So trying to say, hey, if you're right near a particular entrance or exit, you got a better location. It's really hard to say. This facility is well suited for our type of event.
Another thing I might want to bring up is the hotel situation. This is a little bit different than some of your other TradeORees.
Right.
You want to tell people what you've decided to go there?
Yes. Technology has like whizzed past our normal way of doing TradeORees. Right now, since the last time we ran a NOAC 2018, reserving a hotel room is really an entirely different event. It used to be we could go in and say, okay, we'll need 100 rooms, to park everybody in, so many rooms per night, and get a good price. Is because we're committing to a whole bunch of rooms in a particular hotel. Nowadays, the best rates are just go to your favorite website and log in, or type in Holiday Inn Express or Hampton Inn or kayak.com or whatever search engine or website you want to check out. But the prices change almost constantly. You can generally get a better price by just going in and saying, hey, I got a AAA discount, or I'm a veteran, or I work for the post office, or I've stayed at your place before and got the frequent stay card, or I got a Discover card and they got a special cashback discount this year or this month or whatever. So we're suggesting people go book their own. And because we got such long hours at the TradeORee, if you just want to sit and talk with people about trading patches or whatever, you can do that there, and just use the hotel as a place to go and get a good night's sleep and maybe your morning breakfast. Because I have tried for 2 years to get a block of rooms at a better rate than I could just book a single room, and I could not do it. So I gave up.
That sounds fair. It's really good advice, and I think you're probably going the right direction there. With people might have, credit card points or whatever, so everybody can figure it out. Is there anything else going on? You're kind of known for having silent auctions or having, this and that extra things sprinkled in. Do you have anything like that planned yet?
We're expecting to do some silent auctions on day 2, which is Sunday afternoon and early evening. The first day of the event, July 23rd, the Saturday, is normally just, I'm not saying mayhem, but it is busy. You got people scurrying all over the place trying to find a deal, trying to meet their buddy who said they'll meet them there, and get the table set up. And I don't want to interfere with that from a dealer standpoint, or even the just walk on, this person coming in for the TradeORee for the day only. I don't want to mess that up. I'm not one to try to do how to trade patches classes. I'm really just kind of backing up and let people go have fun. When you finally get to a NOAC, about every hour is programmed. You got something to do from the moment you get up until you go to bed, and we're just more laid back. Lots of stuff to do. We got concessions there. You can get them, eat there when you feel like it. We got lots of coffee and drinks and stuff for people that just, stop there for an hour or two to look around. And we got, breakfasts, lunches, and dinners at reasonable prices. It's being served by the TradeORee Park staff. I'm not going to be serving slices of pizza, that's for sure. I got lots more things to be doing. But the silent auctions are fun. In other words, you get a deal and look around. But I do not anticipate having a live auction at this event. It's too hard to plan to get everybody there. Because a fair amount of our table renters are also staff members at NOAC. So they're scurrying in and out and trying to get their job done at staff and then come back out to their tables. So anyway, pretty loose but fun events.
So one thing I definitely wanted to hit on in this interview, and maybe you can expound on this, is the idea that these pre-NOAC Trade-O-Rees are really more about the fellowship in terms of the one opportunity that we all have on a biannual basis, COVID notwithstanding, to gather together and to see each other, to, of course, trade patches, but also trade stories, make connections, talk about research people have done, discoveries they found, collections they've been working on. There is just kind of a brotherhood of the cloth, if you will. You've put on a lot of these Trade-O-Rees. Can you kind of speak to that as well?
We will have space if somebody wants to put up and show their display, show their collection or something like that. We have space if somebody wants to, make some arrangements with me. Just give me a call, contact me via email or whatever through my website. We'll have that whole second floor available if somebody wants to put up their display of early handbooks or Boy Scout belt buckles or whatever they want. We have place for displays. We'll have large easels / bulletin boards at each entrance. So if somebody says, hey, everybody from the Transatlantic Council or used to be a member of a certain lodge, please meet at a certain, certain table or certain location at noon or whatever. We can have impromptu messages going back and forth to people. Oftentimes we have the Overseas Airmen Association, because those guys have been scattered all over the world. They grew up in scouting maybe as a child of a military serviceman. They will meet here sometimes. We have oftentimes groups from, old OA lodges that have been merged and supposedly gone, but they'll meet every NOAC. So if you got something you want to put up on a bulletin board, just, scratch it out or bring a pre-done poster, stick it on our bulletin board. The same thing goes for if you're trying to find a ride back to campus, stuff like that. We have a PA system. We can also make announcements like, hey, the bus is leaving, guys, for Lodge X, Y, or Z. Get on the bus. So we're trying to be helpful in that respect.
Do you have very many lodges that will, bring the bus to come visit a pre-NOAC Trade-O-Ree, or have you figured out a way to kind of, get the word out, or maybe, free patches for the scouts, anything like that? Because I do remember in 2018, there was at least one or two lodge, contingents that came in the door, and that kind of electrifies the room when you have all of those scouts in uniform buzzing around, going from table to table.
Yeah, we generally have 5 to 10 different lodges or busloads come into a Trade-O-Ree over the period of the 3 days. But the way they're doing registrations now, where they're trying to get everybody into the dorms on one day, it's making it a bit harder to get people in like the day before, that kind of thing. But with this Trade-O-Ree, we have the added advantage of huge parking areas, no difficulties in getting buses in and turned around, and we don't have to deal with traffic. We'll be sending out messages to 8,000 participants, previous customers of mine, Springwood Company. That generally gets the message out pretty well, and I appreciate this opportunity to have a podcast about it. You have even more contacts. I do have the potential for sending out a message to all of the lodge contingent leaders, and I'll be working on that in this coming week.
Well, I think that'd be great, yeah. It's ironic, we're finally kind of coming back to Tennessee. We've been up there in Michigan for so many years, so this kind of flips the script a little bit. Maybe it's easier for some lodges from this part of the country to get there, and, maybe they'll bring a bigger contingent, or they'll be able to get there early or something like that. I'm sure it's always a long trip for the kids on the West Coast, but
yeah,
can't always take care of everybody.
No, so far, the NOAC looks like we're going to be in the 7,000 to 7,500 participant range. I don't know exactly where we're at, but when I find that out, I'll post it on my website. The registration for this NOAC was started a bit later just because of COVID. So in some respects, the national office and the NOAC planners are a little bit behind, but compared to, if you compare our attendance to, let's say, what the Boy Scouts have registered for troops, we're doing really well. Because some councils' membership is way down, and the NOAC isn't down nearly as much as you would have expected.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I know that I have not had a podcast in a long time, so this is a perfect reason to break my long my long slumber and can wake up and put out a podcast.
Thank you. Appreciate the help.
Well, that's it, guys. My first podcast in, probably a year. I hope you enjoyed that interview with Chris Jensen and you're as excited as I am about attending the Pre-NOAC Trade-O-Ree in Knoxville the last week of July. Wanted to also mention to you that I did record quite a bit more of this interview with Chris. You might call it sort of the after the interview, and that is a little piece of content that I created just for my Patreon group, the Scouting Hot Finds Insiders. Now, if you haven't checked this group out yet, go to scoutinghotfinds.com. That URL will take you right to the page on Patreon for my group. And what I try to do there, it's a group of supporters that I try to give them some exclusive content that someone who's really deep into this hobby might appreciate. The After the Interview is one of those features that I believe you get at any subscription level to my Patreon group. And what we do in this after conversation is just Chris and I talk about a few other things. I did ask his permission if we could keep talking and I could record that. And so I think it's pretty interesting. It's about 15, 20 minutes long. Chris and I can get a little long-winded, I guess, when we're talking about the hobby. So I think you would find that interesting. So if you want to check it out, go to scoutinghotfinds.com. Again, that's the Patreon group. The lowest subscription rate there is $2 a month. And what that money does is it helps me to hire a video and audio editor so that I can increase the quality and the quantity of the content that I'm putting out for the hobby. Of course, if that's not your thing, no problem. The Patreon group is really just an opportunity for people to get sort of that behind-the-scenes look at what I'm doing in this hobby, my warehouse, my business that I have. And so that appeals to some people and to some others maybe not. So I am getting kind of close to the 100th episode of this podcast. I have some ideas for how I can reinvigorate things, but honestly, part of those plans kind of deal with video because I have really found video to be a way that I can connect with people a lot easier, and is also very possible to do a video recording, whether it be through Zoom or StreamYard or some other platforms that I've tried out, and then let it generate an audio file that can then become the podcast. A lot of people that I follow on the internet, sort of like YouTubers and stuff that are in that eBay space, they will simulcast their YouTube videos and also generate their podcasts from there. And so kind of thinking that's probably where I want to go with this, because if I am going to do an interview with someone, it's just so easy now that we've all been through COVID and we're all very familiar with jumping on a Zoom to do a video call. Of course, I want to try and make that high quality, and so I've struggled a little bit with Zoom and just how the look of it. You can go check out my YouTube channel, Santee Swapper, and you can see some interviews I've done. Some of those are great. Some of the video quality is a little sketchy, and so I am trying to investigate some ways to make that better. But I think going forward, that's what will happen with the podcast. It will be less an audio-only format, and it'll probably move to being more of one that is also going to be generated through YouTube and maybe even streaming it over on Facebook, that sort of thing. Thanks very much.